Hey everyone, welcome again to our YouTube channel. So for today's video, we're going to talk about travel. I know a lot of you are really waiting for this kind of video with my boyfriend, of course, because like I've been mentioning about him coming in the Philippines, and some of you are curious since the Philippines is open for tourists and you are one of the tourists to come here in the Philippines and you started opening here.
People want to know what they have to do in order to come.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie, it's a pain.
It's a pain.
I've been coming here a long time.
Yeah.
And last time I was here was January 2020. And it's a pain. If you're not fully vaccinated, I probably wouldn't bother. And that's largely because everywhere you go, once you're here, they want to see proof of vaccination. When we were going around Manila, you couldn't even get into a shopping mall without showing proof of vaccination.
That is so true.
When we got on a domestic flight in order to come down to Mindanao, same thing. When we checked in, had to show proof of vaccination, which for us as tourists is the One Health Pass. So, but just to get into the country, proof of vaccination. So for those who are coming from the US like I am, that's going to be either your CDC card. If you've lost that, which some people have, you can use the World Health Organization official record of vaccination and prophylaxis, which is a yellow card, and your doctor should be able to set you up with that. And they should be able to make an endorsement on it showing that you have received your COVID-19, and that will be accepted. Those are the two things. If you don't have that, then you could run into issues. The second thing is within 48 hours when you depart the US, you're going to have a negative COVID test. It has to be the RT-PCR. You have to have proof of insurance for COVID-19, health insurance.
How much?
$35,000. So you have to have proof of at least $35,000 worth of coverage. And then once you've done all that, you'll when you get your ticket, you'll have to register on One Health Pass, and then the day you fly or the day before you fly, but before you fly, within that period, you have to input all of that information. Once you've got your record of vaccination, you've had your negative COVID test, and then within 24 hours of when you fly, you'll have to go back onto One Health Pass, log in, and you're going to have to provide all this information as far as the COVID vaccine, which one it was, what the dates were, your negative TPCR test, and you need that digitally in order to upload. When you do that, and then you'll get a QR code, a little square, and you need to take a screenshot of that because they're going to scan that when you get to the Philippines. But in addition to scanning that, they're going to want to physically check. In addition to having a digital copy to upload, you're also going to need to print it out so they can see it. In my case, I took a picture of my COVID vaccination and uploaded that, and then I was sent a digital copy of the results of my COVID-19 negative test, but then I also had to print it out, and I just put a folder together with everything. They're going to want to see every piece of that documentation.
Oh, details, like everything.
Right. It's kind of a pain because in the past, I never worried too much about I had to look around and find health insurance. I think I ended up paying about $135 for a month's insurance.
This insurance is only for today's kanang.
It's only for this trip.
Oh wow, so if you wanted to come back, you have to...
You'd have to do it again. There's going to be some variation, like if you were coming here for an extended period of time, insurance is going to be more. So that's what it cost me for 1 month, which includes, trip interruption and all of that. There are a few additional benefits. I didn't actually need those because I have trip insurance through DAN, Divers Alert Network, because I dive. But you couldn't find the health insurance for a trip medical insurance, including COVID, without that. That was just that's just the way it's packaged. Those are the main things. I definitely understand why people would not want to get vaccinated. It's like we just keep getting more and more information about the issues with vaccination. Now, on the flip side of that, it looks like we're seeing the beginning of the end, and we're seeing countries that are starting to get rid of all this. Possibly in another 3 or 4 months, this will become a non-issue. We'll see.
Hope.
We'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see.
So for those unvaccinated people, you just have to wait.
That's the other thing. My understanding is right now, if you're not vaccinated, you can't come.
It's a thing. Like you are here in the Philippines, everywhere you go, you need to show.
If I weren't vaccinated, I wouldn't come because it's going to be a pain. If you can travel at all, you're going to have to get multiple COVID tests. You can't even travel from one island to another without showing that you've been vaccinated. And then the other thing, of course, is the people who are looking at coming, also tickets. I watched. She messaged me on January 28th. Kind of laughed because on one of her videos, she said she thought I bought the ticket.
I thought.
Right,
Really?
but no, it was the first day.
I thought it was the first week of anyway.
Right, but it was actually the end of January. It was a Friday. I saw the message on Friday morning, January 28th, which was Friday evening here in the Philippines. I watched ticket prices jump $1,000 between the morning and the afternoon. And there essentially was no award travel being offered. So I couldn't use points. I was able to use miles to upgrade, but I couldn't use miles in order to get a ticket. And I heard somewhere, somebody said that, I can't remember if it was on YouTube or I read it somewhere, but someone said essentially like all award travel for the next 3 months just gone. Like the first day. I did use miles to upgrade coming over. Those long flights, it was nice to have the miles because you can get business class and not have to pay literally thousands of dollars that it would cost to actually pay for a business class ticket. I was able to $400 plus miles. That's what it cost me to upgrade. Award travel itself wasn't any available. And that's on United. The United website did give me a date as far as when my COVID test needed to be done and a time, which for me was after 10:35 a.m. on Friday the 18th. I was flying on the 19th, but I had to overnight in San Francisco, and so I didn't actually leave San Francisco until Sunday morning. So it was 48 hours before that flight. And I think that possibly had something to do with that long layover that I had in San Francisco, because I had to stay overnight. The other benefit ended up being that I upgraded, which I didn't know, was because I had upgraded to first class, I was one of the first people off the plane when we landed in Manila. And because of that, I was through immigration in less than an hour. If you were at the end of that line, I could see where it could easily take 2 hours to get through. They had about 5 people who were checking people's paperwork. I was actually in the second row of people that got called up. They escorted us from the plane to a little room and they set everybody down in rows. They were very organized. We got there and then we basically just went through row at a time, and we stepped up and they scanned the QR code, and then they physically checked my vaccination card. They physically checked my COVID-19 test, and they are looking for where it says negative, and they physically checked my insurance. That had to actually be stated on whatever you showed them. They scan the QR code, then they check all the paperwork. And then you step out and you check out with someone else, and they scan your QR code before you leave, just to make sure that you did go through the line that's inside that little room. Then they stamp your boarding pass. That clears you to go to immigration. Went over to immigration, and at immigration everything was pretty normal. One thing I found out kind of the hard way, I was coming here for 30 days. If you look at the immigration website, it says 30 days on arrival. First day is the day after arrival. At the airport, their system doesn't count it that way. The airport system counts it the first day. There's nothing you can do about that. They're not going to change their system. Because it was only one day, they told me that I could pay at the airport when I leave. And that kind of brings up another subject. There was going around there for a while that there weren't going to be any extensions. And that was all based, from what I understand, there was a woman from Department of Tourism who was on television here in the Philippines. He was telling everyone that there weren't going to be any extensions. It was 30 days and for tourists, and that was it. But that's not the case. Bureau of Immigration, everything's as normal. But then you get into onward tickets. I've never used one, but from what I understand, they do have services where you can purchase a reservation that just kind of goes away pretty cheaply. The other option is to get a round-trip ticket and then change it. I guess the last option would be just to purchase a throwaway ticket to a nearby destination that would be cheap and then just cancel it. So those are your three ways of doing it. I've never been able to get a firm answer, really, and maybe somebody knows the answer to this. If you show up and you have an onward ticket, but it's beyond that 30-day window. Not sure how that would work, because I haven't actually run into that myself. When I came a few years ago and I was living here for a couple of years, I just bought a round-trip ticket and then changed my return date.
No quarantine, when you arrive here, no quarantine. When you exit the gate, you can go wherever you wanted to go. Once
they've verified everything, free to go.
Yeah, free to go.
Right. Now, one thing I noticed too, and people are especially coming from the U.S., depending on what part of the U.S. you're coming from, but where I live, everything is pretty normal. Nobody wears a mask. The only place you wear a mask is if you go into a medical facility, hospital, clinic, that kind of thing.
It's your problem. The problem here is everybody's wearing face masks wherever you go. And
it's not so much a problem, it's just a reality.
Here in the Philippines.
Right. So in the cities, it was like that everywhere in Manila. Of course, you walk into a mall and you sit down at a restaurant, and you take your mask off and eat, drink normally. Nobody says anything. What I did discover this week, after we flew to Mindanao, is that we were out in Province, and nobody's wearing a mask out there. In the cities, out, nobody's wearing a mask. So that's pretty much it as far as travel.
So it's smooth. As long as you're vaccinated.
As long as you're vaccinated, right.
And you have negative...
and you have a negative COVID test, and you have your insurance. And then you jump through the hoops as far as registering everything. All your dates, address where you're staying, passport information, address and stay. Yeah, they want to know all that, contact info and all that. My big concern coming was that I might test positive for COVID. 2 days before, the day before I'm flying out of Houston, 2 days before I'm flying out of San Francisco, was one concern.
The last concern.
Right, and then I knew it would get into the country. Now the next concern is when I leave, because at least for now, the U.S. is still requiring all of us to have a test no earlier than the day before we fly. So if for some reason I test positive on that test, and the thing we have to understand about COVID, even in the beginning, the data was showing that 40% of people who tested positive for COVID were asymptomatic. They had no symptoms. If you test positive, then you're going to miss your flight.
You're being stuck.
You're going to be put in quarantine, and you're going to have to pay for that hotel, which will be covered by your insurance.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, that's part of my insurance. I suspect, generally speaking, because it's true of my other insurance in the Philippines, I have to, pay those expenses and then file for reimbursement, which is not an issue, but you kind of have that concern. Some tests are you know, they have had issues with false positives and things like that. So there's risk. As long as they're testing for COVID, coming here is going to be a risk involved. If you're in a situation where you have definite, still working, you have to get back, or you know, you have a business or whatever. And you know, everybody's situation, everybody's finances are different. You know, my own situation, you know, I have things set up at home so that it can basically run without me. I don't have to be there. I can take care of everything from here. But if I get stuck, it's not a huge deal, other than, you know, I miss my family reunion. Beyond that, you just have to make that decision for yourself. That's kind of it in a nutshell. I did make an inquiry of a friend who's up in Malapascua, that's on the northern end of Cebu, a few days ago, about coming up there to dive, and he basically said that as long as you can get into Cebu and domestically, you only need to show proof of vaccination. And everything else would be travel as normal, because I said, what's the story? And, you know, am I going to be able to come like I normally do? Once I'm in Cebu, am I going to be able to catch the bus and, you know, get on the ferry and all these things? Because I normally take local transportation when I travel around the Philippines. He said, yes, that was the case. One thing we saw, we were discussing a few days ago about going to Dumaguete, thing about things getting updated.
Yeah.
So what we saw on the website was that the ferry was still saying that to get into Dumaguete, we had to show a negative, you know, RT-PCR test.
Even if you're vaccinated, fully vaccinated.
Even if you're fully vaccinated. But people on the ground are saying completely different. People who we've contacted have done that trip recently are like, no, exactly what my friend told me about getting into Cebu. As long as you're fully vaccinated, you're able to travel, but you have to be prepared to show that, or the negative test. So that's why I wouldn't recommend someone coming right now
if they're not fully vaccinated.
If they're not fully vaccinated. And I know it's difficult, and I know that you know, it's hard to wait, and I understand. I really do understand people's concerns, and you know, I've looked at a lot of the research myself. I was a biology major, and there are things that are concerning. Of course, the biggest thing that's concerning is how way too often people are not allowed to discuss, and science is exactly that. It's a debate. It's a rigorous examination of data, and people make their case, and it gets, but you know, at least as far as COVID, it seems that was politicized very early on. What can you do? I mean, I got vaccinated last year, right when they were releasing the vaccine.
Think that you can come,
because I thought
right
that it was going to end up being a requirement to come here, and a lot of us, I think a year ago, thought by the middle of the year, if you were vaccinated, you'd be able to get in. Well, I mean, it took almost another year before they opened up to people who were vaccinated. We all know now that vaccination doesn't keep you from getting COVID, which is not what they told us a year ago. A lot of things have changed. I think we'll see a continued relaxation of restrictions, especially because here in the Philippines, elections are coming up. What happens after elections, I have no idea. I think we're all a bit fatigued with all of this. We'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah. Cool.
But it's difficult. I fully understand people who have met someone and will have to wait. I would say wait. Yeah.
It's just so we're just lucky that you get the vaccine before, and then
right
when you open the Philippines, it's like, okay, I get ticket, blah blah blah, I'm coming there. Oh
right.
My gosh. So anyway, for those people who are watching, I know, like, I think some of you are already watching some videos about this topic,
right.
But I hope you're getting ideas from him, which means, like, you know, you when you travel in the Philippines, that's what you expect when you arrive in the airport and stuff.
Right.
So yun lang.
So yes, get your ducks all in a row.
Yeah.
And you know, I like I said, I put together a folder and I put all of that paperwork in there. Yellow vaccination certificate, international certificates of vaccination as approved by the World Health Organization. You'll need this, or you'll need your original CDC card.
With insurance.
You'll need to show your insurance, which for me it was Trawick, TRAWICK.
International.
Right. Pretty basic policy. I have $50,000 for medical and hospitalization maximum. $2,000 for trip delay, which would cover a quarantine hotel, and then the usual, you know, medical evacuation, repatriation of remains, emergency medical evaluation. So it doesn't just cover COVID; it covers everything. Mm-hmm. But the most important thing is that there is a line here: COVID-19 covered, same as any other illness, to the above mentioned medical and hospitalization maximum. So that's the thing they want to see, is that is actually on the paper. So I printed this out and brought it with me. So in addition to my vaccination card. And then the other thing was, this is COVID-19 negative test results. And then you'll want to print out your itinerary, because they're going to want to see your itinerary so they can verify that you do in fact have a return ticket or an onward ticket. Then you need, I don't know if you can see this.
One Health Pass.
Yeah, so this is One Health Pass. I just screenshot, and there's a QRC code here, and they're going to scan that. And they're going to check that before they let you get on the flight. If you're traveling within the U.S. and you're going to another airport, like I was going from Houston to San Francisco, they didn't check any of this in Houston.
Only in San Francisco.
But it all got checked in San Francisco before I could leave the country. So that's just something to kind of be prepared for. And then they're going to want to see your boarding pass from your last flight getting there. And that's the one they're going to stamp. That's basically what you're going to need. I found that having the One Health Pass actually kind of worked to my advantage. We're traveling around, like if we went to a mall, I could just go, I could just pull this up and that was all I needed.
Instead of the card.
And she had to pull out her card to show. And then the same thing when we got to Mindanao, I just showed my passport, my One Health Pass, and you know, they okayed us to come in. She had to show her vaccination card. So what they're requiring for us as tourists, they're requiring it for Filipinos also. That's it.
That's it.
So if you guys have questions, you can leave them in the comments and I'll try to answer them.
Those people who have few questions, maybe you're still confused or you have, you know, like something in mind, you can just leave your comment down below. And we are going to try answering all of those.
You're lucky.
I am so very lucky.
You're
okay, I'm
lucky.
gonna say it because I think I haven't posted you here on this YouTube channel because I posted you in other one. Thank you so much, my love, for giving that information, and I know that some of you are getting idea from him. So that's it. Please like this video, share, and again comment down below if you have some questions. We will be seeing you next time. What?
You forgot to say subscribe.
I'll subscribe.
Right. I mean, maybe there are people watching who haven't subscribed.
Ah, yeah. For those people who haven't been subscribing to this YouTube channel, you can just click that subscribe button for you guys to be able to, you know, like be updated whenever we posted new video.
And hit the bell also.
Oh, the bell. Do not forget the bell.
Because then you'll get a notification.
Ah, that's it.
Right.
Yeah, okay. Right. So thank you so much again, and we will be seeing you on our next video. Bye everyone.